Hi, I'm Isabelle Parker, and I am a licensed MFT, and I am also the director of SAGE.
My name is Josi Richards. I am a marriage and family therapist and a drug and alcohol counselor. I am the clinical coordinator of SAGE.
And we work together for 3-4 years now.
Yeah.
We've really had a great time working together.
Yes.
So today we're going to have a great time talking to you guys about power and control and things that we worry about that aren't within our control.
Right. So we have some recent statistics that gives us some very clear numbers about worry. So what is the statistics say?
Well, what's interesting is most of us worry about things that we don't have a lot of control over. So there's a few statistics that Angelina Caberano goes over in her TEDx talk. The first things are things we worry about. 40% never happen. 30% are in the past and can't be helped. 12% involve the affairs of others that aren't any of your business. 10% related to sickness, and 8% is actually likely to happen. So if you can see, only 8% of all the worrying we do is actually things that we have control over, or even things that might happen. There was a really powerful talk that I've heard recently from another therapist that talked about what is really in your control. We talk about boundaries and control, but whenever you want to start talking about boundaries, you really have to start with what's really in your control to have boundaries about.
Those 8%.
Yeah, the 8% of things that actually might happen.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? In that 8%, you have 3 things. Direct control over things. Those are things you have 100% control over. Indirect control and absolutely no control. Indirect control means I have some influence on the outcome, but no control means I have absolutely no influence. I cannot control what happens. So what are things that fall within direct control? What are things I have full control over?
I have, for example, years back, I had control over not being fully satisfied with my profession and choosing to go from being a baker to being a counselor.
So that would be what I would describe as her actions. She has control over her actions or behavior or choices. She gets to choose every morning. What am I going to wear? Where am I going to go? How am I going to spend my time? How am I going to treat others? She has direct control over that.
Right.
She has direct control over what she chooses to do with her mind, where she chooses to spend her energy using her mind and the resource of her mind, because our mind is super powerful. It occupies, as you can see, so much of our mind occupies things we have no control over.
And what is interesting is that a lot of times we think that we don't have control over this, and this is something we actually have control.
Yep.
Neuroscience proves that.
Yep. And as a result of being able to control what happens in our thoughts, we then have control over what happens in our feelings. Because oftentimes people think feelings are automatic, but they're usually fed by old trauma or feelings. And we have control over what we're going to do with those feelings. We have control over the behaviors that come after those feelings. Really, that's all you have control over.
Yeah.
We have indirect control over certain things like money, right? Yes, I can make wise decision on how I spend my money. That doesn't mean nothing bad is going to happen to my money, because there's a lot of things out of our control that can happen to our money.
Yeah, for example, the economy collapsed in 2008.
Yes.
That was something that was totally out of our control, regardless if we were being wise or not wise with our money prior to that.
Exactly. We have some control over our kids. How we treat them, how we rear them, the things that we do with them will have a direct impact on them, but will not necessarily control the outcome of everything they do.
Exactly.
Same with our spouses, right? We can choose to be kind and loving, and they can still make decisions that are unkind and unloving, even if you're doing what God has called you to do in your relationships.
Exactly. And how about the things we have no control over?
No, usually, to me, having no control over something is, whether I have, like, what's happening outside. I obviously have no control over that. I have no control over how somebody else is driving. I have no control over my spouse's choices and behaviors. I have little to no control over the outcome of my children at school. Things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there is also another research made by Dr. E. Carson that says that people that uses the principle, there are certain things in life to which I have no control, they actually can multiply the natural happy cells in the brain.
Yeah, exactly. When we feel like we have some control and we focus on those things, you're going to be much more prosperous in life. But often we're focusing on the things that we can't control. We're obsessing about them.
The
We're worrying
40%
about
or
them.
the 30%
Exactly.
or the 12%
Right.
or the
We spend so much
10%.
time. So we talked a little bit about a scripture on using that scripture for something that we can control. And I'd love Josie to share that with you now.
Exactly. So we have Philippians 4 from 8 through 9 says, "And now, dear brothers and sisters, one final thing. Fix your thoughts on what is true and honorable and right and pure and lovely and admirable. Think about things that are excellent and worth of praise. Keep putting into practice all you learned and receiving from me." So from the scriptures, from life, from God, everything you heard from me and you saw me doing, then the God of peace will be with you. Going back to us having control over our thoughts and over our internal state, over what we're choosing to concentrate on.
When I'm choosing to focus on the things that I have no control over, it's not focusing on the things that are lovely and admirable. It's actually focusing on the things that make us feel chaotic, that make us spiral. So I'm going to have Josie share a tool, but even a tool for me is sometimes simply asking, do I have control over this? Do I have indirect control, or do I have no control? You know, because when I'm really have high anxiety or highly angst, I say, about a certain situation, and I have no control over it, what is the point I'm putting my mind and focus on that, right? And that's when I learn, I'm going to cast this care onto you, Lord, and hope that you help me through this, because I have no control over this.
And by control, we mean what are the things that we can influence. Some of the things we can influence, others we can somewhat influence, and others zero influence.
Now, Josie, this is actually a philosophy I really learned in recovery programs too, is the Serenity Prayer is a beautiful prayer that talks about, Lord, help me know the things that I can control and help me know the things I don't and know the difference, because oftentimes that's what occupies a lot of our time. But there's another really great tool that you use and we've used personally in our own lives, but with our clients also, that I thought would be cool if you shared with them.
Yes. So the first question is, what forms thoughts? Thoughts are formed through our five senses. So really starting by guarding our five senses. What are we looking? What are we hearing? How are we really depositing energy to using our five senses? So throughout the day, throughout the years, we collect information. The brain collects that information and restores back here in the back of your brain. But the trick thing is that the brain does not know the difference between true or false, good or bad. The brain simply filters that information. From time to time, our brain will do what we call the racing thoughts, which is what I like to tell my clients, even though it's not very pleasant, really works. It's like our brain vomits information to us from time to time. All of that thing that we have been collecting, trauma, stress, news, Facebook, our brain goes like, blah, right? So we have to look at it and go like, okay, what is the information that my brain is giving to me? I am feeling worried. I'm feeling anxious. My thoughts are like 1,000,000 per hour. What is the information my brain is giving me? When you find the information, you have to look at the information and have a talk to your brain. So an example of this would be, I have a very good friend and we hang out together. One weekend, the friend, for whatever reason, goes out with a group of friends, doesn't invite me.
Right.
So my brain is racing, and I'm having all kinds of emotions. And I can go, what is the information my brain is giving me? An example of an information could be, my friend doesn't love me. It's not a true friendship. If it was a true friendship, she would have invited me.
I did something wrong.
I did something wrong.
Right.
So then you ask yourself, is this information true, not true, or questionable? if I believe, for example, this information is true, for whatever reason, let's run through all three possibilities. If I believe this information is true, then I need to ask myself, is there something I can do about it? So if I think my friend did not invite me because of something that I did, or we don't have a true friendship, I could go like, okay, is there anything I can do about it? Is there anything that is my responsibility? If yes, how I can fix it?
Right.
So going back to, can I influence the situation?
Right. Do I have direct control, some control, indirect control, or no control over the situation?
I can choose, for example, to have a talk with my friend in another day. Hey, I felt that you didn't invite me, and the impression I had was that our friendship wasn't as strong as it was as I thought.
Right.
That is if something is true. If something is not true, you can also have that talk with your brain and say, why? Well, I have gone out with my friend for the past 3 months, every single weekend. This one time, maybe it was an intimate, maybe it was a family gathering, maybe it was an intimate gathering, but I'm pretty sure that I trust my client and I trust my friend and our friendship that we can clear things up later.
Exactly.
If it is questionable, you also ask yourself, is there something that I can do about it? Why is it questionable? Well, I don't know what the reasons are for my client, for my friend not to invite me. So I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt.
100%. Basically, you're giving this activity gives your emotional brain a chance to process with logical information. Because we deal with this kind of stuff a lot in our relationships, friendships, marriages, with our kids. Oftentimes when we're in conflict too, someone will say, hey, you are lazy, wrong, bad. You know, I'm using very easy words, but they're going to often label our behavior something. And that's also a great opportunity for us to say, is this true about me? Is it not true? Or is it questionable? And again, if they are true or questionable, do I have any control on the outcome? Or is there ways that I can influence what's going on? And so today, we want you to use this little activity in some of the areas of conflict that you're having in your life. Do I have control, direct control, indirect control, or no control over a situation? And is something true, untrue, or questionable? Have fun in your groups doing this exercise.
See you next time.
Next time.